Does it have $1 million vibe? Or...
With enough thrust, you can fly a brick.
Location, 1980 Gallery.
In studio, podcast.
Hi, welcome back to Location 1980's Art Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Fortune, and my co-host, Eric Ringman.
Good evening once more, everybody, and tonight's special guest, Alicia, one of our newest artists.
Alicia Long.
How's it going?
Welcome to the Art Pod.
Thanks for having me.
Have you been on an art podcast before?
I've never been on a podcast before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're a little nervous?
A little bit, but I did a little bit of musical theater back in the day, so I'm kind of feeling, those vibes.
Cool. Well, for those of you that are watching and those of you that are listening, we're in a new setting, new and old setting.
Yeah, that's very true. Hopefully you're watching because this is one of the better sets I think we've had in a while.
Yeah, so it's got legs. It's got potential. So it's actually my old art studio that I was in for about 8 years, and my old business partner, Brett Douglas, was who built and designed the studio, was in it for about 3 years before that. And before that, it was a welder's unit. And you would not believe how black. There used to be a truck parked right here. That whole outdoor area had a tin roof.
No way.
Yeah, and there was walls on each side, so it was kind of like part of the unit.
Was it all just open still? I mean, no drywall or anything, right?
Yeah, it was just a raw space. It was pretty rough. But we got the green light to upgrade it, and which we did, and it was nice, and it was a great studio for me. Since I've moved on and claimed my studio space elsewhere, you've done a heck of a job. I must say, I could applaud you.
Thank you.
The first time we did a art show, and you were part of it last month, you definitely dropped a few jaws when friends of mine who had been here a million times, and they walked in the room kind of sideways, like, what is this place? Is it the same place?
Is that still OSB? It's actually painted?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
People were saying they didn't believe it was the same space.
Exactly.
I think it's just the white paint, right?
Well, the white helps, and no, you have a lot less. I had kind of a faux living room set up, whereas you have just basically all working space. So I had like more sectioned off areas where this is like nice and wide open. You got the plants and the decorative lighting.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about you joining our art family because it's been fairly recent. You've been here maybe 2 months.
Yeah, I think since beginning of April. So very, very, very recent.
And so let me ask you this before we start the beginning of your art story. What brought you to 1980 and how did you find us as far as looking for our studio space?
Oh, that's a really good question. I was aware of you guys for a while, but the word gallery threw me off. So I knew that you were having events. I kind of saw like some of the photos, and I thought, eventually that'd be cool to check that out. But just never really happened. And then I was looking for studio space, and I think I don't even know what I came across, but saw it, I think maybe on Instagram, and I feel like the stars aligned completely because this was exactly the type of space that I have been looking for forever. I have had all this stuff in my home. My poor husband, Mike, shout out to Mike, and I just had everything shoved in closets and rooms and the garage, and it was. So
you're kind of taking over the
It was
house.
Taking over the house, for sure. You guys have any of those problems?
Jesse fondly tells of how as soon as you signed the studio that his smile was bigger than yours.
Yeah. So
all the stuff's finally out of the house.
Exactly. And it's not that they didn't like the stuff. It's just, do we all know as artists how we have a tendency to, like, things creep? That's what Mike says.
Some do. Some of us handle it differently, I think.
That's definitely something that's been observed here over the years, though, is if it's not in check, it'll creep.
Yeah. And there's hard and fast rules. Because we have no other areas to expand our studios now, I get it down to the square foot. So if a piece of furniture comes in, that means that 2 have to leave. And so a lot of times people think I'm kidding, but if you don't do that, you won't be able to walk through here.
It's like living on a boat, it's like
exactly.
If you don't keep a real tight rein on that, it'll just be junk.
Yeah.
It'll be like the Beverly Hillbillies.
Location 1980 Island, right?
Yeah, right.
So no, I totally get it, and I keep offering Jesse things. I'm like, I have this cool thing, and you've taken a couple of things recently, like things that are giving away, but for the most part, you've said no.
Well, the one conference table, I think it was a conference table. It was like a faux marble table.
Yeah.
I turned that into a headboard. So,
which is totally cool.
So yeah,
love that repurposing.
Anything I took, I definitely upcycled, or I took it that way and went the long way to the dumpster.
But no, the space is incredible. I have we can go through it, but I have a lot of different mediums that I've either am currently interested in or that I've been interested in. So it's been amazing to be able to have, like, I have a workspace in one area, and then to be able to have a storage space, and it's just, I just feel like I can breathe now, and then also it's kind of a space like where we're sitting right now to just ideate and imagine and do nothing.
It does garner a fountain of ideas when you have the proper space.
Mm-hmm. And being around other creatives, I feel like we can get into that more later. But
and did you know about the collective when you came here, or just you saw it as a space by yourself? And then you come to find out, you get all this art family to join as well. I
had no idea that there were as many, artist space and working artists that were here until you gave me the tour, and it was, and I maybe that was just me. I don't know why it didn't hit my radar, but it's okay too. I feel like it's all.
Well, the line has often been written, Orange County's best kept secret when it comes to art, but we've done our best now, especially with this podcast, to let everyone know that we're here. You still do have to kind of come here to walk through it, so we can make a virtual tour, I guess, which would be fun if anybody wants to help with that. Any of our audience members who have a nice drone or 8D camera or something, would be kind of cool.
Are there any other? There's one other artist collective, I think it's Santa Ana, but other than that, Orange County, are there any others?
Well, it's just like true collectives. There's studios that are adjacent and near one another all throughout Laguna. You have 4 or 5 artists sharing a big studio or sharing a big gallery. That if it's a true co-op, it means you basically are obligated to pay the rent. But if you pay into the rent, then you don't owe a commission. But as far as the collective vibes, like, good luck. I don't know. I would love to find out.
But not that I've encountered, and most everybody that's come here has said, like, I haven't seen anything like this.
Exactly.
Anywhere nearby.
Or if they did, it was in San Francisco or New York.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They haven't anywhere nearby.
Well, in New York, what is it, Deborah? Or one of our new artists?
New. I don't know if Deb, I guess the newest artist is Mina.
Well, Deborah,
Deb stood in right before her.
She was talking about
from New York.
She came from New York, and so she was part of a collective there. And New York, there's tons of artist collectives, like tons of warehouses and whatnot, where you can be around other
secret old loft buildings and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Which that was my dream. And I actually had not necessarily dreams, but ideas of if it was possible of forming my own collective. But I just didn't know enough artists in the area, so kept trying to find them.
Something like this, I'm certain at this point, after 15 years of collecting creatives, started with that was not the mission, essentially, so it had to be grown organically, and that's one of the reasons the fabric is so tight, is because it kind of wove itself, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Now that we know what we got, we definitely do whatever we can and kind of grow it and facilitate and welcome new artists to our fold. And now that we've talked a little bit about how you found us, and now that you're here, I don't think Eric or I know how much or how far back your art story goes. Was that something we often ask our guests, like, because myself, I wasn't, people would see that, I've been a career studio artist for 25 years. When people say, did you start when you were a little kid? And I say, actually not at all. How about yourself? Did you start as a child, or? I think
so that art and creativity, what I probably received in the early years was by osmosis, if you will, because my dad was an architect, and I grew up in a very creative household, lots of music and lots of mid-century modern furniture. So I think I was made aware of good design, good color, and we had Eames chairs, and we had beautiful walnut Danish furniture, and that's just what I thought furniture looked like. I didn't really realize until I go over to other people's houses. I'm like, oh, not everyone's houses look like that. And my parents, they did all sorts of things, like in the 60s, they took cool film classes at UCLA, and there was an era where people were doing a lot of exploratory and experimental art, and that was who they were. So
then you're local. You grew up here.
I grew up in Balboa, down the point, and back in the days when we could shoot fireworks off the beach on 4th of July.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's
that was
super
fun.
local.
Absolutely. And back in the day, back in the 80s, people would cruise Balboa Boulevard on the weekends, if you can imagine that, like in their cars.
Now, are your parents from California as well?
My mom grew up in New York, and my dad was in Portland, Oregon, and then moved down here. But they got married in 62, so they basically California. I was born actually in Santa Monica, so we lived in the Palisades, Pacific Palisades, for until I was about 5, and then we moved to Newport. And as far as creativity, my dad was an architect, so his studio office was like a playground for me. He had oil pastels and pens, and had these marker sets that were like in a big tin where you had like 300 different markers, and he would just let me go at it. And
That's
so
awesome.
I would color in things, but the drawing piece of the puzzle just never really clicked for me.
Did you get to see any of his visions come to life? Like something he worked on?
Yeah.
Get
in the
built.
studio?
For
and
sure.
get built?
I think his opus was he designed a house for Wilt Chamberlain that is still standing, and it's this kind of incredible. It's a very triangular house, and it was up on a mountain in Brentwood, I think. What?
Tall doorways.
Yeah, oh yeah. So, but back then though, it had like a sunken pit, which I know has come back into vogue, but it had like the shag rugs and everything, but it had a
Nice.
swimming pool that was like the outdoor, like, with the glass coming down. And
So I know he's not the one we're interviewing now, but I want to briefly ask this. Between what you've described there and your furniture and stuff, was he a modernist, or like would you...
Frank Lloyd Wright. Like just
Okay, so he's a total acolyte of that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That was his. He loved everything Frank Lloyd Wright. So
architecture is my first love, and especially that branch of it. So this is like, I won't dwell on this, but I could for an hour.
I know, and it's funny because I think that most kids, that they wouldn't have known who Frank Lloyd Wright was, but that was a household name, which is kind of funny to me. So
What about your mom? Did she have any?
She was actually my mom. She was kind of always dabbling in crafty things. She was always either taking classes, but she was a very accomplished singer. She actually had a 5-octave range. So and she was the one that introduced me to musical theater in terms of albums. So listened to a lot of Sound of Music and Camelot, and that may not necessarily seem like that isn't necessarily related to art, but again, just that creative vibe.
Are we talking like sub 10 years old here? Like what period is this?
Yeah, probably under 10 years old. And then beyond that, so I think it just, when I was, I did take like an art class, like I took a whole year of art in high school, but when I was a freshman, our teacher, so I remember this, that most days, and this was first period in Newport Harbor High School, by the way, that you'd walk in for at least the first 20 minutes, our teacher was nowhere to be found. He's in the back. I think he was probably doing drugs with the other students in the back. I'm not sure. But after the course of a year, I really don't know how much I got out of it. Except for we did design I think it was our final project, was designing a record album. So you get to choose your own, and I did Duran Duran Planet Earth. So that may be dating me a little bit, but that was the choice. It was a really bad design. It had something like, it was like a meteor or something. Like, it was just so stereotypical in terms of the imagery. So beyond that, I really wasn't until later, because high school was just high school, New Harbor High School. It didn't really do a lot creatively speaking. College, though, my sophomore year, I took a color theory class, and that just lit me up.
Is that mostly due? I can remember a few of those early classes where it was instrumental to have the right teacher sometimes, and so and then when you did, the light bulb can come on, not just with you, but the whole class. Sometimes you can't wait to go next week, and the class after. Was it one of your teachers that really kind of?
Teacher was not very memorable. The assignments, however, were like I remember one assignment that this was the one that killed me. Was that we had to create some kind of a, not a sculpture, but a structure using only newspapers. So I remember, and it just baffled me. So here I'm trying to roll them up, and then there was someone who when I came to class, and this guy had rolled them up perfectly taut and had made a cube. And the other thing is I don't think we could use any tape or glue. So that was a rough assignment.
It's basically like origami.
Right.
It's got to stand on its own.
And you actually had to make something that was 3D. So it couldn't be flat at all.
And that was a color theory class.
That was apparently color. But I
Hey,
remember
it's black and white and red all over.
I know, it was rough.
Nice.
But got introduced to most of the class was about using acrylic paint. So I
your basic color wheel.
All of that, learning, doing gradients. Where you did also the basic things of complementary colors and and doing black to white.
Scales.
So all that kind of thing, and I totally loved it. And at the end of the class, and actually the other thing that was cool is that it introduced me to the artist Gauguin, Paul Gauguin. And his art, I just fell in love with the color. I fell in love with his style and just the surrealist nature of that. Highly recommend. In fact, my little sidebar, my husband's aunt June Hargrove, is an art historian, and she has written 2 beautiful books on Paul Gauguin. Yeah. So kind of a nice, fun little way to close the circle.
See if we can find the link and put it in the description. I'd like to order one of those myself. Do you have that in your extensive art collection?
It is one of those, it's beyond a coffee table book. It's one of those super thick, like the Jansen, remember that? It's that thick with beautiful photos. I could probably borrow one from my mother-in-law because I think she has the family copy.
I like Gauguin's portrayal in, what was it, The Color of Lust? The Van Gogh movie with, was it Kurt Douglas?
There's a Van Gogh movie?
There's Tim Roth. Yeah, there was a bunch of them. But
oh, we're talking, so Gauguin.
No,
we said Van Gogh. Oh, there's a...
But weren't they homies? I think so.
Right.
Same era?
There's that... No, wait, when's Van Gogh?
No, I think...
Is he 1800s?
No, I'm almost certain.
I'm not sure.
Well,
it feels like there's not overlap.
We'll circle back to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what Gauguin's did you like so much?
He spent a lot of time in Tahiti.
Yeah, so
So
him and Van Gogh are homies.
I just started reading Noah. Speaking of that,
what'd you read?
Gauguin's book Noah, where that's about his time in Tahiti and getting to find it out. Yeah. So I'm only 40 pages in it or something, but that's a fascinating.
What have you learned so far that you want to share?
I've been thinking a lot over the last year or two about travel and adventuring and kind of getting back to the essence of my youth, which has a lot to do with being on the sea. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to get to the South. Who wouldn't love to get to the South Pacific? And back in Gauguin's time, the world really felt like there was more left to discover. And so for him to be this very famous guy and then just I'm gonna go to French Polynesia, and it's like the
Right.
dying vestiges of the old world of kingdoms that's been there for centuries, you know. And he doesn't fully speak their language; they don't speak his language, and he's like learning to be with it. And he's like, I want to forego everything that was familiar and, in his own words, poisonous about European civilization, and
Didn't
like
stop
see
him
how.
from getting local either. He
He got real local.
he integrated.
He integrated super well. Yeah.
Okay,
we don't need
just
And as an artist, he's got like such a poetic way of condensing these like vast experiences into like
sure.
real few words on a page. It's
Yeah.
real good.
Well, yeah, you were saying something?
yeah, I just don't want to think that I was going crazy. It's called Lust for Life, and it is Michael Douglas that played. Or is it Kirk? Is it Kirk Douglas?
Yeah.
He played Vince Van Gogh, but Paul Gauguin comes from Paris and stays with Van Gogh in the Yellow House. And when he goes crazy, and then finally Paul has enough of it, and he's like,
Oh, wow.
"This dude's wild as shit. I'm out." And then to say it's rumored that this one of the reasons why once Paul left, because it was the first time he had a buddy, and once he left, that was one of the things that pushed him to just go all the way crazy and actually cut the ear off and that kind of stuff.
But isn't it incredible that, like, back in
And
the
those
days...
two are strange bedfellows.
Oh,
Because
really?
Gauguin was bougie as hell and Parisian and like just very buttoned up and dressed well and awesome.
No
And
way.
Van Gogh, like, he stunk and he had the same outfit and he was just a pig pen on wheels. And then they put him in this southern France utopia for light, and they kind of broed for a second, like it was good, and they'd make work together. But then the wheels fall off really quick.
But how incredible, though, that to think about that they come together as such different walks of life and
Sure.
maybe even just their ethos, but that creativity and art brought them together and they could learn from each other. And then also back in that day, that and maybe people still do it now, but you could say, I think I'm just going to go pick up and I'm going to go move to Mallorca for a year and I'm just going to make art.
This whole concept you just outlined, that's pretty reflective of what we're doing right here on this property.
There you go. Well, maybe we should have like a residency where people come and from other places
we would love to.
right. How cool
That's-
would that
If
be?
we get paired.
Variations on that theme are being explored.
Yeah, and we have had quite a few international artists kind of come through. That was my bridge to Europe. Was Lydia? Shout out to Lydia, my sister from another mister. Last time I saw her, she called me her travel big brother.
Oh.
And she
Where
came
she live?
here. She lives in Zurich, and she came here probably 10 or 12 years ago or something. And she was an artist, but she was like staying with some friends, and she came and she really liked this place, so she made some art, and then she said, "Oh, you mind if I stay a little bit longer?" And so she stayed like an extra week or two, I can't remember, but she just made art and really kind of got down with the scene. And we went to the beach, and she said, "If you ever come to Europe," she was like, "I got you." And I was like, "All right, cool." And then I ended up going, and she swung the doors open to Europe for me, and I got to see her make a workshop. She was the first person that I saw aggressively attack upcycling. Like she did not waste anything.
What's her medium? She a painter?
She could do a lot of things. She had
Yeah.
a lot in common with you.
Really? Yeah.
She was like, "I'm getting it done, whatever it takes," kind of
Hook
thing.
me up. I want to meet her.
Yeah, she was very industrious, but and part of that's the European, part of it's polygot, but it was all because of here that opened the whole door to Europe for me.
That's really
she
cool.
came through here, and went and visited her, and I can't wait till she comes back. But
Yeah, so I just to wrap up kind of the sort of the college years, if you will. One thing that happened was that at the end of the class,
where did you go to school?
I went to UC Santa Barbara.
Okay.
But at the end of the class, I went to my parents and said, I want to be an art major. That's what I want to do. And
Laughter ensues.
my father said that's a terrible idea, which I was really surprised, but just absolutely. But I also remember this is coming from someone who is an architect and who's also an artist. Like he also did his own paintings, and I listened to that and I said, well, what should I do? It's really what I want to do, and so I decided to be an English major. Now, later, maybe a couple years later, my dad did say that was bad advice, and that he felt like I should have pursued that. But water under the bridge. It was what it was.
Most English majors wind up. It's like a joke in college. You end up being a teacher.
Exactly. I mean, they're really
teach other people English.
I mean, I knew how to write. That was, I guess, the one good thing, and I definitely gained an appreciation for fiction and literature, and which is all probably maybe more of a dying art these days. So, so that was kind of cool.
Did you couple it with some electives at least while you were there?
A lot of art history. I really loved art history. I loved music history. So, but with art history, I really loved the impressionists, the surrealism, and so I took a bunch of different classes in art history. Didn't do any studio art after that. So it really wasn't until later, I worked in fashion for 7 years. I worked for Versailles Cashmere, which is a very high-end cashmere company. And
was that something right out of school? So you graduated college?
Yep.
Was it in some kind of creative capacity?
No.
Okay.
I ran a warehouse, but I was always tootling into the design department, and I was always trying to say, what is everyone doing and what are they working on? And I just didn't, I even found some writing that I had done back then. I'd actually written a letter to my older brother talking about it was a letter to my uncle who had said, your brother was telling me how you're thinking about going to art school. So it was still something that was percolating even after I graduated. And at that point, though, I was so broke that I had college loans and student loans, and it wasn't really feasible. But I kept.
Did you stay local at that time, or have you traveled much? Or
well, so in college, my big traveling though was that I spent a year abroad in New Zealand, which was very cool, and that was a really neat experience.
Was that a gap year?
It was actually through the University of California. So what was cool about it was that I could take classes, and we got credit for it. I did take one of the coolest classes I took was Russian art and architecture. Of all things, the Russian department at the university I was at was amazing. So I took Russian literature, Russian art and architecture, which was fascinating, though.
Was this Auckland or what?
This was in Dunedin, which is South Island. It's Otago University. Shout out to Otago University.
And how long were you there?
I was there for a year, an academic year. So
2 semesters.
Actually, they're on the
trimesters.
Yeah, they're kind of like the trimester system. So I was there from February to November. And they had this crazy system where you took all of your classes, and then your finals were in middle of November, but your classes end in October, so they would give you a month to study, which sounds like, wow, that seems like way more than you would need, but it was a cumulative year. So all of my classes were year-long classes, so all of my finals, which was rough. So I remember having to reread books and things that I had read back in February. I'm I don't remember any of those books.
Yeah, especially at that age, you're in one ear out the other.
Yeah, exactly. The worst class I took, though, which is kind of sad, was I took a New Zealand art and architecture class. And it was just a lot of landscapes that were not very interesting. Well, they probably...
Well, if you wanted to study that well, you should have gone to St. Petersburg or Moscow or something.
I know, right? Right. No, that would have been fascinating.
So you said it was boring. Was that taught by locals, or did you outside of that class did you see any influential design or anything that when you're in New Zealand that really struck you?
I mean, the only thing that I was really struck by was it was my first real experience being in what I thought was a city. I came from here, and then also Santa Barbara. I mean, Santa Barbara was super sleepy back then, and so to me this was like a city. And their main square was actually patterned after, there's the octagon that was patterned after Edinburgh. So there's a lot of Scottish influences. So there was just cool Gothic architecture, and there wasn't a lot, it has a lot of British and Scottish influences. So art-wise, it really wasn't that much on my radar. But it was, again, the fact that I'm was still thinking about, wanting to go to art school and things, it was obviously percolating. But and then I graduated from college, went to work. I had a waitress for a while because it was a recession. It was a bad time to graduate.
We call that the art of the side hustle.
Absolutely. That was just a hustle. And I was a terrible waitress. I was so bad. And I've waitressed at more than one place at many jobs. And I have a terrible short-term memory. And I've had a terrible short-term memory. I found some write-up from, they said, when I was in first grade, like 6-7 years old, that I had short-term memory loss at that age. So I had no hope later on.
The fact that that's even true, but like the self-awareness at 7 years old to be like, short-term memory loss.
Shot.
So as far as, it was hilarious when people would give me their order because, they'd go around the table and I would start writing it down and then I'd say, can you do that again? Can you repeat that again? And then I'd bring their drinks over. No idea. Those people, those waiters and waitresses that they just got it all down and
no notepad.
That was not me at all. And then the whole thing of I didn't know anything about wine. I didn't know anything about like nicer liquor at all. So they would say they wanted me to upsell. And I had no idea what they were talking about. So people would order, gin and tonic, and I take the order and I go back, and my boss, my manager would say, well, did you upsell them? Did you ask them what kind of, vodka they wanted? And I'm like, no. And I would start walking back. They're like, no, you can't do it now. You can't walk back.
Did you use that platform though to find your a better situation? So if you realize you're not good at waitressing, what did you do to get out of that?
Well, a friend of mine heard about it. She was working at a place that this cashmere company, and so she got me a job there. Interestingly enough, I was working in the design department, so I was working for 2 of the designers, and that was a lot of fun, just being around that creative energy. And
were they designing clothes?
Yeah, clothing. Yeah.
And the clothing for runway style or the average housewife? Or I'm not sure.
This is real.
I'm not familiar with it.
Cashmere, sweaters and everything. So it was exactly. Super expensive though. People can look it up, but it was very, very high end, very nice pieces. So gained an appreciation for craftsmanship. I think especially with that, which was pretty cool.
Were you sewing then?
Was I what?
Sewing or stitching or anything?
No,
or you were just drawing. What were you doing?
At that, I was just an assistant. So I would. Just things like I would cut up fabric swatches and put them on a sheet to send out to clients and customers and things that wanted to do private label. It's not that interesting.
But did that at least kind of weigh your appetite to get more into design? Did you go back to school to get into the design world or photography? Or?
Well, okay, so fast forward. Got married, had kids, and raised my kids, and then this actually was a big moment. When I was I was heading towards a very big birthday, and my dad, and this is props to him for, even though he was crushing my dreams when I was younger, he did say to me, he said, so your kids are doing well, they're thriving. What are you going to do for the next 10 years? What is that going to look like? And what was really interesting is at that moment I had, and I know this may seem hard for you all to believe because you've seen the studio, but I had 0 hobbies other than going to the gym. I didn't do anything else. It's a good hobby. So,
and I want to contextualize this for all the viewers that haven't spent the last couple months with her. She's got one of everything and has all this, I'll say the word expertise in all these fields, and I'll be having random conversations with people out there about something I literally just discovered last week on YouTube or something, and she's walking oh yeah, no, I got a machine for that. Come anytime you want to use it, come on in.
To be specific, since Alicia's been here, I've seen her use spray rattle cans, router, multiple drills, saw, paintbrushes, stitching
stitch machine, photography.
Yeah, different photography setups. Yeah, so quite a few very fluidly.
Yeah, crack cut, some kind of laser thing also, right?
laser
Yeah,
cutter.
there's...
So the well, I think, inside me was just waiting. You know?
Yeah,
it really was just, it was waiting, it was saying,
building up energy.
Is that how you answered your dad's question? Or?
So he said, and so the one thing I had wanted to do is I had wanted to take voice lessons. So, and my mom had taken voice lessons from an instructor over here in Costa Mesa, and so I started that. And one might say, well, you know, what does that have to do anything with art? But I think that there are, you know, potentially like baby steps that one can take and that just gave me sort of the courage, the confidence. So it started with that. And then really what it was that I think it opened my consciousness to when I would go out and about, I would see things and I'd say, oh, I wonder if I could make that. I wonder if I could do that. And then it became, I want to do that. And so I saw I don't even know where I saw it, but it was a hand-stamped, it was very big, you know, back when my kids were little, hand-stamped jewelry. And if you guys don't know what that is, it is where you take a metal blank and you have these, you know, like these tools that have either a letter on the bottom, or they'll have like a little symbol, or, you know, a heart or something like that. And you actually take a hammer and then you pound it in, and so you can. And so I just basically taught myself how to do that from watching YouTube videos. And so I had a jewelry business for 5 years doing that. The other thing I have to back a little bit was that what the voice lessons did for me is I took voice lessons for about 2 months, and I said, okay, this is really nice and all, but it's a little boring. I felt like I was just kind of in a bubble, and I wanted to get out there. So I found out that there were auditions at a local community theater for Sound of Music, which was one of my favorite musicals. So I decided to audition for that. I got cast as Sister Margareta, the nice nun, which was, you know, always surprised. You guys know me that, like, I'm not really that nice, but they thought I was. So, it was a family community theater, and so my kids ended up auditioning. Mike did not audition. We love Mike, but he's not a performer.
Stayed in his lane.
Yeah, exactly. And doing that, so I did the hand stamped jewelry, and I was doing the theater, and I feel like it was just, you know, one thing after another with that just really gave me the confidence, and it really lit that creative, you know, fire in me that I just felt like I wanted to try everything that had been in the back of my mind for so long. I didn't know it though. And so in 2016, I had been thinking about doing this for a while. I wanted to go back to school for graphic design, but I was terrified. I mean,
computers, Photoshop.
Well, I mean, I wasn't terrified of that. I just was thinking, like, you know, to go back to school. And I went to Saddleback College for their program there, which is a phenomenal program. But just the signing up for the class, which I think back on it now, I'm like, you know, and I don't know how many of you guys had moments like that where it's just signing up for something or choosing to do something that scares you. And I don't even know why that scared me, but it intimidated me because it just felt like, I don't know.
Do you find equal pulls in you? Like one that's going like, oh shit, and another that's going like, this is going to be great. Like, this is going to be so dope. And it's like two very distinct voices pulling really hard. And you can feel like, on one hand, you might feel a relief if you listen to the one that said like, nah, dude, too much, don't do it. But also, you get this, the other one is telling you like, you would really regret it if you did that. Wow. And take the 1 second of courage to sign it up, and that's really the hard part, is making the decision. And then after that, I guess I got to live up to it. Now you do the steps.
And then in the creative industry and entrepreneurial as well, it's often those steps in that moment. It takes that to level up. So you have to get uncomfortable. It shouldn't be comfortable if you're trying to do something completely new and different. You gotta be a little bit, you know, learn how to sell or learn how to speak in front of an audience, or going back to class when you're maybe older than the average student.
Totally.
But you find it with that chance that you take and follow through, that you're, you know, equally rewarded or then some. And it also becomes a condition where after you do it a few times, you look forward to the next uncomfortable awkward moment.
So yeah, now I know that is like that thing that is if it feels scary, and not for, I'm just saying it's not a legitimate reason, but not like a real reason. If it's just that, but if it is kind of scary to me, then like that's probably the thing I need to do.
Yeah, you've associated that feeling with, oh, this is the prelude to good stuff.
Absolutely. Even like kind of here, this is all kind of scary and unknown, and I
remember the first time we met. It was scary for me too, because I was like, oh, she might be perfect. But you had to take like a week or a day or a weekday or whatever it was to like maybe go talk to Mike or circle back around. And I think we both had our separate trepidations. Like, I hope she comes because she seems like she's perfect.
Yeah.
And then you're probably like, do I really want to do it? This place is just like
funky enough.
Yeah, just you can't put it in a box. It looks good enough on paper, totally. but then you gotta dive in.
Well, I think the big thing about moving in here that I thought, okay, so you move in, and then is there this expectation that I have to prove who I am, like that I'm a real creative,
this is so relatable.
I'm a real artist, and that then it's like, well, you better make things like right now in order to and so I had to give myself a little grace and a little space and just move in and just make things as they come to you, and try not to push the what the end result is going to be, or having to make anything at all. And so just in fact, my therapist had said, can't you just go one day and just hang out and just maybe sew something? And I was like, but I have to have a plan. But so no, and bringing more of that play back into things.
Sure.
So,
yeah, it's a critical element of this environment is the playfulness, for sure. I didn't realize that when I first started. What you just described, my whole first month was like the door closed, didn't know anybody, didn't talk. I was like, and I might have told a longer version of this before on the pod, but like when I drove home from signing the contract, I was like thrilled. And then I woke up the next day like, okay, I got the studio now. I got to actually prove I'm worthy of it.
Right.
And I felt like a weird obviously I was the one developing that pressure, but I felt that for that whole first month. Yeah. And as soon as I started presenting work, people were like, dude, this is sick. Like, what are you working on now? And on and on.
And you also came at a really good time. I've said this recently, that, with all the, more than 100 artists that we've had come through here, not just with renting studios, but come to workshops and all these things, there's been many different versions of 1980. And we're for sure officially on 2.0 now. So
what does that look like in terms of 2.0?
Well, because now we have the entire building. There's no other businesses. We used to always have a neighbor or some kind of thing that was like preventing us. Now, so we maxed out the square footage and brick and mortar, but then we just leveled up the website. Now we have a podcast, and we also have more artists here officially than we've ever had. So there's 17 of us now.
We had all the modifications we talked about on the New Year's show 3 or 4 episodes ago, so it's like a clean slate in certain areas.
Yeah, we met a lot.
A lot happened. Right before you got here, a lot happened.
Yeah, when I listened to that episode, so I that was interesting. Before, I think right after I signed the lease, I listened to that, and I was like, I had no idea how much, not turnover, but how much you guys had gone through. So
yeah, there was a lot of pressure. I mean, also too, the property almost got sold, and we thought about we might have to move, and there was all these big kind of things. And then once it all settled, it worked out. We met all the deadlines and demoed the things we had to demo and changed the space accordingly and dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and now here we are sitting in this new fabulous studio. That's what kind of makes it 2.0. So unlike Eric, who came in with in version 1.7, you came in on the clean next level, and in a way helped complete us, start that new thing. So now we're doing the monthly art walks, and we're doing the pods, and we're doing yes.
Which is I mean that all the events and things are so cool. So
no. For the yoga.
No.
I'm all good. Thanks.
Yeah.
But I guess just to wrap up and I thrived and thought that I would have been a graphic designer. I really thought that was where I was going, and finished the program in 2019. As far as
so it's a few years then you were there.
Yeah, and I did the program a little bit longer than most. I mean, I don't know how many semesters it is, but I really excelled. I won awards, and in fact, I won a national print contest where they flew me to Chicago, and gave me a cash prize and put me up there and presented it to me, and it was really.
Can I ask who was hosting the contest? What was it?
It was called GIRF, which is a mouthful.
That's a designery name. That's so attractive.
It was actually I should remember this, but it was a print convention that was happening in Chicago, but and I don't remember what GIRF stands for. Sorry, GIRF. But
some kind of graphics, something.
It was a high school and a college contest, and so colleges from all over the country participated.
What exactly did you design to win? Was it a faux article? Was it a real thing? Was it a logo?
It was actually, and I don't have it with me, but it's actually at home. But what I designed, they wanted something that could be printed, but that was interactive. And so what I designed was an interactive beer bottle.
Sweet.
So what my idea came from was, have you guys ever taken maybe more sort of the plasticky beer bottle labels? And what we used to do is we used to pull on them. We used to cut them.
Try to get the whole thing off.
Well, we used to do strips of them, and so we would make it almost like hair on while we were just under that. Okay, maybe
that kind of inspired these things.
Maybe just so the actual it was the Grass Skirt Brewing Company. It was so it was the Hooky Loud Pale Ale, and so what happened was that the skirt. So the way I did was I printed it and cut it with my digital cutter, and so you could actually lift up the leaves of the skirt on, and so it ended up being like a hula skirt on the beer bottle. And the beer bottle even had a little bathing suit top and whatnot. So awesome. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
In fact, I was like, this should be a thing, right?
Yeah, that should definitely be a thing.
Interactive beer bottles? How much fun would that be?
Yeah.
So, anyone in the beer bottle, hit me up, okay? I'll design something for you.
We are looking for a beer sponsor.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah?
That's true.
Well, okay, and shout out to High Seas in over here in Costa Mesa.
Mm.
I feel like they should be our sponsor, don't you think?
I live right across the street from High Seas.
Do you?
Yeah, and they just opened a month or two ago.
Yeah, not that long ago.
I haven't been in there yet though. We should work.
It's very nice.
Just gave him a free ad, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Well, I'm gonna make version 2.0 of Thank You for Smoking, where it's a J instead of a cigarette with the animated neon. So maybe they'll need one.
Come talk to Jillian or Jesse because I feel like they should sponsor us.
So I should tell you that I had a similar graphic design mission when I graduated. When I got my bachelor's in graphic design. In 2000, I moved here thinking the same thing. I didn't win any awards, but I did really well in college. But I kind of knew by the time, I'm coming from Kansas City, moving to Long Beach, and I'm thinking I had did enough internships and jobs as a graphic designer to know that I wasn't going to be able to keep doing it. Because it was like a grind. I could meet the inbox, but the inbox was always full. Mm-hmm. So the better you got, the more work they give you, and you get paid the same. But I was just like, I'm not gonna, I can't pull it. And I came out here in 2000, August 17th, I remember, and I just was like, I went on one job interview, I think, and I got lost in the city, and it was up in LA, and I was just like, I just already knew. I was like, I maybe could even got the job or a job, but I was like, my head was completely not in it. And I had all those graphic design skills, which still come into play on a daily.
For sure.
Design skills always will, but I just kind of, just that quick made up my mind. I was like, all right, here's my bachelor's degree in graphic design, and I'm just going to shove that right underneath the mattress. I mean, it was in a frame somewhere, but it didn't mean much at that point. I was like, I'm just going to be an artist and figure it out. But that being said, so did you have something similar where you're like, nah, I have my graphic design skills, you won contests?
Well, yeah,
How did you not get hired somewhere?
It was it was 2019, and and I went to the print competition, in the fall of 2019, and something funny happened in 2020 that kind of so
derailer.
I think it wasn't that it. I didn't have any set plans, and I was looking at potentially some jobs, but the other thing is the jobs I was looking at were all crazy hours, and when I looked at the descriptions, first of all, and it's worse now, but back then, what they expected you to do as a single person, or at least it was the job description, it was insane. They wanted web design, and they wanted Photoshop, and they wanted Illustrator, and they wanted InDesign, and then they wanted After Effects, and they wanted and all this kind of thing. And but I joined AIGA Orange County. AIGA, for those who don't know, is the American Institute of Graphic Artists, and we have an Orange County chapter. Great group of people. We have a Slack group that's been going strong for, since 2016, 2017. It used to be a more robust program. They had a mentorship program, monthly meetings, and there was always a different speaker talking about creativity or talking about different topics within, not just always graphic design, but a lot of other things. And so I was really involved in that, but then I was hearing from my friends who were actually out there in the field, it was much of what you were saying, that it was just a grind. And, my one friend, Miguel, who's now over at Rogue Collective, Rogue Creative, shout out to Rogue.
Yeah, who's your buddy?
And that,
He was here the other day?
and Matt Barnes, who's the
Barnes.
owner of Rogue. But Miguel had a job where, I remember him just describing, he was designing like silicone molds and things for some company that, sold to Joann's and Michael's. And he would tell me about like the turnover of like just all day long. It was just a grind. There was nothing creative about it. So I feel like maybe I dodged a bullet there, that I didn't end up going that route.
Let's go COVID.
Right?
See, it wasn't all bad.
So, then I stumbled into the photography thing. If you ask me how it all happened, I really couldn't even tell you how it happened. I did have, this thing of like, oh, I think I might want to try that.
And that's like, what, 21?
That was like in 2020, and still like kind of 2019, 2020,
Okay.
2021.
Because your photography is great, especially for
thank
being
you.
that new of a thing. I mean, it's
Thank you.
Yeah, you
really, really professional.
I did, and that actually, another huge shout out though to California Center for Digital Arts up in Santa Ana. If anyone in Orange County area wants to take some photography classes, they are really great. They have not art walks, they have photography walks. They even go on, I've never been on one, but these incredible like tours to Vietnam and Iceland and whatnot. But they have a lot of great like beginner classes.
Do they get into like video and lighting and
all that,
like
yeah.
post-production of
They do.
photography, editing and stuff
all
too?
That stuff.
Okay, cool.
Though my Photoshop stuff came mostly from
from the
Saddleback
graphic design.
and whatnot. So and then I have a couple of friends who are photographers, and learned a lot from them. So
What drew you? Photography is pretty wide, broad spectrum. Was it like sunsets, ocean? Was it fashion?
well, in the beginning it was like food photography and then also pets. I loved photographing dogs, and totally thought I was going to go the food photography route. I thought it was so cool. Food photography is so hard. I mean, just that whole and very commercial and very it's so much harder than it looks. So I did a little bit of that, but I was actually nervous about photographing people, because I thought, oh, that must be like, I would much rather photograph people. Like, it's once you get them in pretty light, photographing people is just very satisfying, and it can be fun if the people want to have their photo taken. That's the caveat. Which is how I ended up. I took a workshop in dance photography, and that was just so much fun, because dancers, the way that they move and hold their body, and then it's a true collaboration, because you have to work with a dancer and then also know. And I was a figure skater for 8 years, so I took a lot of ballet, so I do in some ways know about body positioning. I don't have all the nuances of being, I'm not a professional ballerina, so I wouldn't know that, but I knew when I got the shot. And then it was really fun, because a dancer, they want to capture those moments, especially when they're at their peak.
Their peak.
So
Well, the lighting has to be like hypercritical to making
Sure.
that be good, right? Because you're shooting
Yeah.
real fast.
Absolutely right, yeah, and one of the hardest things to do with dance photography is that if you are shooting with flash, that you get one try. So you have to, like, if a dancer is doing a battement or something, or where their leg is going up and it has to be at the peak, then you have to know, you have to time it perfectly.
Yeah, it's about the millisecond.
Because you can't spray and pray, as they call it. So you have to hit that moment. But when you do, it's amazing. So I did another workshop
Again, one more time.
Exactly. Exactly. I did a workshop down in Solano Beach, and this one is so cool because the way the beach is there, when the water goes out, it leaves a reflection. So we'd have the dancer like jumping and doing leaps like over the water, so you'd see the reflection of the dancer. But that's like where I had to have a big octo, big light stand, like sitting there in the stand, with my expensive strobe, and I was hoping that a wave wouldn't knock it over. But I did find that with photography, though, I prefer the control of the studio.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do location photography because you're so dependent on your lighting and chasing lighting, and that isn't like super fun. So I did a little bit of that, but I feel like photography for me is more of a tool than my chosen medium. But I keep circling back to it. So
you're about to do headshots and shots of the artist.
Sure, but then I can have it all in control, and I think once I get the setup done and dialed in, then it's all good.
Yeah, take a number next.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully in these chairs.
So I know, and I was thinking of this headshots in the orange chairs, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Does that bring us almost full circle now since you came to 1980?
let's see.
Because I see some of the fabric pieces that we haven't really talked about.
Yeah. So the textile art and work is more recent. This is another instance of me seeing something online and saying, I wonder if I could make that. Which, how many times have we all, as a group?
Yeah, I mean, that table is like
Right?
a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
But I, and I don't know, maybe it's an illness or something, because that has happened to me more time. And I'm trying to not go all in, because I have a tendency to I don't dabble. I dive in. If I decide that I'm going to do fiber art, and I will, I'll take it until it maybe no longer interests me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's kind of what happens. And actually, I have this book out. I wanted to show you guys anyhow. It's Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She is the same Elizabeth Gilbert that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, if you all remember that. But this is a Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. And she talks about how she always knew she wanted to be a writer. Like she was one of those people, 10 years old, whatever, always knew. And so she kept saying, like every time she would go do a speech or a talk or whatever, she would say to people, find your passion, find your passion. And this woman came up to her and said, and the woman started crying. She said, I don't have a passion. I like a lot of things. And
Being passionate is my passion.
Right. And so, but she was feeling like there was something wrong with her because she didn't have that one thing. And so was she lost? Was she whatever? And so the way Elizabeth Gilbert described it, she said that some people as creatives are hammers. And so they like to do the same thing over and over again. And other people are hummingbirds. And when she said that, like I felt like for me when I read that in the book, that I said, I'm a hummingbird. I really, really am.
You just gotta go check out all the flowers.
Yeah, and even she said it, mastery is boring. And I'm not saying that I'm a master and everything, but for me, when I reach that level of mastery for myself, where I'm kind of satisfied, where I feel like I've reached the end, where to keep going would, I don't know, it wouldn't be...
It's an exercise in futility, or it's not going to make or break you either.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you're gaining a competency in a thing that's probably more than 99% of people have.
Yeah.
Probably.
And then that last 1%, like, you ever see Jiro Dreams of Sushi? The documentary about this like world famous sushi legend.
Okay.
And talk about a dude who is so singularly dedicated, and it's beautiful, right? But it's like the difference between being better than 99% of people at something and being the best in the world at something. That last 1% is also the like 99% of the work. To even dip your toe into something
true.
probably puts you more than 50% of the people. To get like a decent local mastery probably gets you better than 99%. And, like you said, that's your own level of how interested you are.
Well, and to your point about, like, your ability to dip into these different things, probably not so coincidentally brought you here. Because
Absolutely.
it also, I can relate, because when I walk through here often, my former business partner and good friend Brett Douglas, shout out to Brett, he used to always say sometimes we'd like walk through and be given a tour, and he'd make it a point, almost like he's insecure, which he wasn't, but he didn't want to fake. Like he'd say, well, I'm not an artist, but we'd be walking through like a whole place he designed and built, like, and I'm like, dude, no, I'm like maybe we need to say that differently, because I was like, every time you say that, it kind of shoot all of us in the foot, because what you might not call a painting, but you take it from a yellow pad to a kitchen. That's art.
Yeah, that's right angles and stands for 15 years.
And it also looks really good and kind of cool. And, and so like he kind of warmed up to that idea, and he'd say, my art is like construction or building things or helping artists with solving problems. Like how do you need it? Boom, one trip to Home Depot and we're golden. So like he was facilitating, but I kind of carried that forward, and I've been learning like you, like if I needed to learn how to weld, or we have different artists that come through to do different things, like Eric welds and does neon, and or Garrett up front is doing all this woodworking stuff, and you might not have to like even learn it to the point where they know, but like you get to brush up and like kind of look over their shoulder, but you get to use those skills now collectively and collaboratively that like I always tell people, if I can't do it artistically, I guarantee you I know the artists that can.
For sure.
I certainly could find them within a phone call. And so like when I come through here now, the best work of art is this whole space. Like I've got an unofficial degree in spatial design and people flow, like how they view art, and I don't even know what there's a
it's almost like being a curator, really.
More or less, but like instead of one piece, it's like you're curating a whole vibe, and that goes beyond a time frame or spatial awareness. But
that's definitely a field. I mean, you look at like the way Disney builds things that move thousands of people through them every day. There's an absolute art to that.
And I think that what I found with all these little skills was like before I came here, I didn't know anything about electrical or running a table saw or climbing multiple ladders or doing giant murals, but now I do. And I might not be a master of any of them, but I can recall a lot of those tips and tricks to help the overall picture.
Were you intimidated by any of those things initially to try them?
A place like this gets you, like, even if you are, it's a environment that urges you to try it versus to not. And
what about you? Sorry, I mean, cut you off.
Sure. Well, I was just gonna say, the more you do that, the more it rubs off on other people as well. So like you can create in this culture around here. If you don't know how to do something, it's like right now, Napa and Michelle are up there creating a gallery wall, which, as I didn't even know the term, but they're doing it right now. And but before they had to do it, we had to cut something and get a ladder out and do all these different things. But it was just like, oh yeah, shit, and like. Now it doesn't really matter who's here. You can just pick, hey, I need help with blah, 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 So it makes it to where that's part of the fee or the culture or what you're paying into. It's and it might not ever boil down to one piece of work that you sell, but it could be throughout your life as an artist and artisan, the way you carry yourself to what you bring to the table in a group environment or a project for a charity or whatever. You're bringing all those skills that you quasi-mastered into play, and they live in your head. So it's whether you made that complete body of work or that whole website is completely finished or you made $1 million selling triangle tables, it's beside the point of just bettering yourself as a creative and bringing more to the table and not letting it stop you try the next thing. You're not running away from anything. It's like, all right, got a handle on that. Let's see what else we can do.
When you guys were younger, I feel like this, that when I was younger, I was really afraid that I would never be good at anything. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that especially, if you keep your expectations low, that you can become good at almost anything that you really want to. I mean, but it also has a cumulative effect. I think, especially with creativity, that once you start, there is the creative brain that if you keep that kind of oiled and going a lot, that it lends itself to more projects. And that I think there used to be a time where I would have been like, oh, I don't know about using a table saw or anything like that, and I tend to just kind of jump in a little bit more. But back when I was younger, I would feel like, well, I might not be good at it, or I would question it a lot.
Sure.
What about you?
Well, I'll say two things on that. One, I think anybody who, just the sheer act of surviving past the age of about 25, even if you're like an utter moron, you can't do that without kind of accidentally becoming an expert in something. And I genuinely do mean that in terms of you're probably better at something than like 90% of people. Just you could unwittingly, with your eyes closed, fall ass backwards into that simply by surviving that long. Realizing that about yourself, having that confidence, and then going about being like, okay, well, what is that thing? That's the step that a lot of people are missing. I mean, I'm doing that right now. I'm like, I know I'm expert in something enough that I could charge people to teach it, but I don't know quite what that is. And if y'all got any reflections after the pod, feel free.
And maybe you just have to, with teaching, maybe you just have to, fake it till you make it too.
And there's a degree. That's an interesting statement. There's a degree of truth to it. That's a whole other philosophical unpacking. Now, the other thing, then, I was listening to a professor one time. So this guy knows a lot of people. He's a professor, so he knows a lot of professionals in every damn field. And he said, the only artist I personally know who's really successful as a full-time artist, he goes, this guy is like a painter, a framer, a welder, a pilot, a scuba guy. He's listed like 12 other things. He's real good at all of those things. And it's that level of multidisciplinarity that enables him to be actually functional as an artist and not like a starving artist or an artist who has a day job or one of these more popular versions of surviving as an artist that exists out there. And I love that mode of doing. I mean, I relate to you a lot on that. Like, yeah, let's learn all this shit, and especially nowadays where we've got a team like we do here. You've got the University of YouTube that's free. You can learn things that 1 or 2 generations ago it would have been real hard to access that knowledge, and like now you can get genuine expertise. Teaching from experts in basically any field you want, and it's only a matter of you actually applying yourself enough to gain that. And I'd say, yeah, dude, go for it.
The writer Ira Galasso said something. And I was so grateful when someone sent me this quote, and I'll just paraphrase it probably badly, but he basically says, that being a beginner, you have this great taste. Like, what it's supposed to look like, right? Maybe it's an oil painting. You see a great oil painting and you're like, I want to do that. But you start making, whatever your medium is, and it's going to suck for a while. And so no one tells you that you're going to go through this really uncomfortable period where your work's going to suck, you're going to hate it, and you're going to think you should give up. And that's the moment where you have to just push through and not be so critical of yourself. And so that's, I think, the muscle that I have gotten pretty good at using with myself, because I don't seem to mind being a beginner or being bad.
Yeah, you gotta go through the process of letting your talent catch up to your taste.
Right, because you can't compare yourself to, and I love doing this like too, where if you see someone like, let's say on Instagram, and you're like, oh, their work is so incredible, go back to the very beginning of their feed, right? Or if you're lucky, and see what their work looked like at the very beginning, and also looking at it too, where I'll start maybe a new medium, and I see what I want it to look like, but then when I look at their work and then I look back, I say, oh, well, they've been doing this for 6, 7, 10, 15 years. You have to, give yourself a little bit of...
Yeah, we used to have right above the front desk in there, for years we had a saying that says, when you buy a piece of art, you're not just buying a thing, you're buying all those hours and countless fuck-ups and
Every piece that was made before this one.
Yeah.
And so that's very true. And I recently was part of a discussion group. Shout out to Gwen, a group with no name.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on adventure. And one of the things that struck me, not just, well, art is an adventure, but is that a lot of things in life are geared towards younger people, or at least in our society sometimes. It's like, if you didn't do it by now, you're not going to do it, or you're washed up, you're has-been, too bad. Regret, blah, 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 blah. Well, with art, like other things, you know, if you're going to play in the NFL, you need to do it when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 25. But with art, the older you get, like, we look at Challenger.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
85, and he just crushes. And he's got all that experience of doing art. So just like we talked about, some of the adventures are actually, is it necessarily mean that maybe the best, coolest adventure you're going to go on is actually later in life, and and with art, I think it almost sets itself up for that. So you're building all these things, and the best work you might make, or the best version of yourself, might be more towards the end than the beginning because of all these experiences.
That's so true. That's true.
And with that, we don't have much time left, but I would like to ask you what we asked several of our artists on the pod. Now that you're here, you're settled, you're part of the fam. Let's say by the end of the year we have our giant holiday art sale. Is there any one particular project that you would like to get into, or a goal that you have where you're like, I'm getting this done?
Yeah, I think that I really would like to do some kind of a multi-medium, so not multimedia, but multimedia, where incorporating several mediums, some fiber art, some chain stitching, some, potentially some photography. And, I think what sometimes I get a little too bogged down in the planning stages. So as far, and this is, but at the same time, I don't necessarily have a great direction. So as far as the answer, that's the sort of the long-winded answer, but I have this idea in my head of doing a body of work, whatever that would look like, more than anything as maybe an exercise, to be able to say, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end, and having it be something cohesive. I vacillate between wanting to do something that is socially conscious, or has, maybe perhaps a political bent. I'm not sure with that. And what I have realized since being here is that I am going to let that percolate and come organically, because nothing is just beating me over the head. And so, but I am realizing that, and Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this too, this idea of, if you don't mind me tapping into this again, but it's pertinent to your question. So she talks about this idea of genius, and the concept of genius back in the days of Greece was that everyone had a genius within them, okay? And what she talks about, though, is that, and I think we've all had this, where you have this nagging idea that just won't leave you, where, and maybe it's the triangular table, and then suddenly everywhere you go, you see a triangular table, and you're like, okay, I really need to, and then you see triangles everywhere, and suddenly you're like, okay, I need to make the triangular table, right? And I have had, these big epiphanies and these big genius moments of something, and she's also said that if you don't pay attention to that it will, and she talks about it in kind of a mystical way, it will wander off and go find someone else. Which she has some very interesting stories in her book about, like weird things happening with that. So I think I'm waiting for that genius moment, but then but while that is happening, I get to work. I make things. I make the bar cart.
Bar cart's great.
Thank you. The bar cart turned out
I was going to say, we use even more tools. Did we use the torch on that, or did we not quite get there?
No, but the torch. Yeah, the torch kind of didn't.
Okay. That was on deck. It never made it up to bat. Okay,
no.
We'll add that to your tool repertoire soon enough.
So I think that in between now and then of making either functional things or just as things come up, but I'm waiting for the moment of, the little knock, but nothing has stuck yet. So I don't know, do you guys have any? I'd love to hear from fellow artists about, like, am I in a rut? Am I in a, am I blocked?
It doesn't sound like it.
No,
It really doesn't sound like
And
it.
I think from knowing you, briefly for the last few months, now that you are in a professional art making setting, that it's more likely to come quicker or organically, like you said. The chances are you've set the table for that idea to pop in your head, and you have all the tools for when it comes, and all the space and all the help that you need. So I wouldn't be surprised if it hit you tomorrow. You're like, oh, after the pod I had a dream,
so.
and you wake up like, oh damn, like.
Gives you a little anxiety, though. I gotta be honest. It's like I just sit there and go, is it gonna come? Is it, but
Also helps with like deadlines, like Napo got us all doing the art wall. So it was just a little thing, and we only had one piece, and this time in particular, it could be something you already had made, which I kind of slid under the cover. I had my own issues about time management when it came to, but next month there's going to be a specific theme you have to make something brand new for, and I look forward to that. Even something like that, it's a small project and a small piece, but it could push you in the right direction, and it could lead to bigger things. So that's like a group collab that maybe, one of those will spawn your genius moment.
And that's what I also do kind of miss about being in school. I love having a project, and I learned to appreciate, homework, and that there were projects too. You say, why am I making this? There's no point to this at all. But then I realized you're either gaining a skill set or some discipline, or it will be something. So I love having a deadline and a project because I really love to, and what I'm really after is getting into flow state. I just love being in that, the losing sense of time and having that, where you make something at the end of it. I mean, how many times have you had, and it hasn't happened that many times, like the big thunderbolt where you, at the end of your project, you kind of have this out-of-body experience. You say, did I make that? When did I don't really remember making that, like where you have this strange feeling that you did, but and it's a great feeling because it isn't this sense of like I made that. It's just like it came through you.
I kind of have that with like videos, like short film and stuff, because you spend so much time getting down to like a single edit. You're like, should this be like a couple frames this way or something? And you're getting so in the weeds for so long that by the time it's finally done, you sit there like, I've watched things that I've made like multiple times over because it doesn't even feel like mine. It feels like a thing I just found on YouTube.
But is that cool though? It just things out there. What is it?
It's going to be lit. It's one of his creations that was fantastic.
That was the name of the show that Camille and I did in here, coming up on 2 years ago.
There was a short little advertisement.
Oh yeah, our ad with the
as soon as I saw
valet parking, 12th August.
Yeah, but
cool. So that's kind of the long answer to that.
We'll chase the flow state.
Gotta chase the flow state and the genius, and hope that hope it. I'm sure it probably will hit, but I also am feeling now that I'm here. I feel less anxious about it because I'm also just enjoying seeing what other people are making and supporting other people, and just I totally love just the synergy of what the mutual energy of other creatives like does for everyone else. I have this personal theory that it's like cross-pollination, that that there's something about we touch each other in terms of our creativity, and that it's exponential, that it's not like that one person and one person equals two people, like that there's something bigger that happens that I can't even put my finger on it, but when you especially when it's like a group and that there is that energy at the end of it that is so positive. Yeah,
you get that 1 + 1 = 3 thing going on.
Right?
People in Orange County can come witness that synergy tomorrow night at our art walk.
Totally.
What date? What's the date
Except
of that?
this probably won't be listened to until Monday.
That's okay.
Well, it's also the third.
But there's going to be the third Friday
in July
of the month.
We call it We Saw. It's a West Side Art Walk. And Alicia was a great point to end the pod on.
Can I bring this thing into the front? How do I grab this? I'd love to bring it up here so the camera can see it.
Yeah, you can just you can grab that. Kind of grab it by the middle because you don't want to grab it from the
Or
ring on
you
top.
don't go underneath it and grab the pole.
Grab it in the middle there.
Grab right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do that. Yeah,
While he's doing that, I just want
bring
to
her
say
over.
thank you so much.
You guys should be on YouTube, not the audio.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank
and
you for having me.
Being part of our fam. And we look forward to doing this again. Also, thanks for letting us shoot in your studio because
My pleasure.
this has been quite nice.
This is gorgeous. Yeah.
This may be the new,
It's very-
the new
The second
podcast
that,
studio.
literally
right?
the first day that you brought these chairs in, and I saw them against the painted wall, I was like, I can't wait to shoot a pod in here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, they come in a green that I'm at my eye on,
Nice.
I hear that.
like this color green. What are we thinking?
Oh, it's like for those of you that are not on YouTube, it's like the underside of those Japanese fruit beetles.
Oh,
It's like
Yes.
iridescent green.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Like chrome.
they may make their way in here as well. because
I love it.
Well,
But yeah, thanks for having me. And you know, Location 1980 is very special, and I really hope that people can come and check it out and come to our art walks for sure.
yeah, our
Yeah.
walks are 7 to 9, third Fridays,
And Wednesdays.
yeah, and we have workshops going. We have more than everything. More than ever, we have more workshops than ever. We did Indian workshops, and we got woodworking workshops and ceramic workshops and all kinds of stuff coming up for you guys. But for my co-host, Eric Ringman, and our guest, Alicia Long, this has been another episode of Location 1980's Art Podcast. I'd like to thank all the art lovers out there watching us and listening to us and supporting your local creatives. And we look forward to the next episode. Peace.
Thank you.